Welcome, everybody. This is one of the artists I admire the most. His work is visceral, it's real, it's full of emotion, and it's the type of painting that you have to see in real life. The reason that's true for Van Gogh's paintings specifically is because his paintings are literally in 3 dimensions. The canvas drips and oozes with an undulation of paint. The colors swirl into each other in literal wave upon wave. If you look at a Van Gogh from the side, you see mountainscapes across a flat plain that is the canvas. Van Gogh's works are spiritual. They're emotional. They ooze with feeling, with tortured darkness. He was a man whose depths I can only hope to one day understand by looking at his art the way he wanted us to look at it. But I don't know what that was, but I feel the power. Van Gogh was a simple soul with visual taste ahead of his time, or a master artist with something to share. He saw himself as a simple soul and a master artist at the same time, but the world around him definitely never appreciated him as a master. He sold 1, maybe 2 paintings for a pittance during his life. Yet now they sell for hundreds of millions of dollars a piece. He was born in 1853 in the Netherlands, and he begins painting in 1880 at the age of 27. That magical age where so many inspired artists have been extinguished too soon. Van Gogh begins painting at this same age. Give you some context. 1853 were the same year that potato chips were invented. This is what he said in a letter to his brother Theo. He said, "My youth was a gloomy and cold and sterile." My youth was gloomy, cold, and sterile. This is a sketch at age 9. Do you see the gloom? Do you see the coldness? Do you see the sterility? A man who doesn't quite face us most of his back. He sees the tranquility of nature, for sure. Again, people with their backs more in focus than their faces, weary with work. Then, from age 16 to 20, he begins work at the Hague Gallery, and after 4 years of training, he is transferred to London and begins what is later described as the happiest year of his life. What does he discover in London? You can see his sketches still are cold, sterile. The leaves stripped of their trees. The birds flying away. Again, in that top right, figures without faces. Here's what he says to his brother Theo. "I must again recommend that you start smoking a pipe. It does you a lot of good when you're out of spirits, as I quite often am nowadays." Well, he discovers a cure for his depression. That's a beautiful thing, right? Well, let's go on his timeline to London. In London, Van Gogh falls in love. Look at these sketches. You see the movement in his strokes. You are beginning to understand and see that he is experimenting with showing us the tools that he's using, the smudges that he's using. Here's what he says in July of 1873. "Still, I often think with regret of the delightful Sundays at Scheveningen and other things, but what's the use of worrying?" He's letting go of worry and of the past. Then he recommends, in November of 1873, go to the museum as often as you can. It is a good thing to know the old painters also. If you have the chance, read about art, especially art magazines. These are all to his brother Theo. That's how we know about Van Gogh, is from his letters to Theo. And in January 1874, he says, do go on doing a lot of walking and keep up your love of nature, for that is the right way to understand art better and better. Painters understand nature and love her and teach us to see. Now, just 2 years later, Van Gogh would lose his job. Why? As he fell more in love with the old masters, and as he began to see within nature the whisperings of inspiration, he became more and more dissatisfied with the art being produced that they were selling at his gallery job. He became so despondent about the current situation of art that he started, as customers were coming in, he started criticizing the very painters he was selling as hags. What could lead him to all this? To 1876, just a couple of years later, from all this happiness, he's terminated on April Fool's Day of all days. Why? Well, like many artists, he got his heart broken. He confessed his love to Jean Loyer. I think she was another person that worked at Loyer. I don't know how to pronounce her names, but I think she worked with him at the art gallery, but she rejects him. He becomes increasingly isolated, and he seems to turn inward to his religious roots. He starts becoming a scriptorian, and he starts giving Sunday sermons, of all things. Here's his first, and a paragraph from his first Sunday sermon. We are pilgrims on the earth and strangers. We come from afar, and we are going far. The journey of our life goes from the loving breast of our mother on earth to the arms of our Father in heaven. Everything on earth changes. We have no abiding city here. It is the experience of everybody that it is God's will that we should part with what is dearest on earth. We ourselves change in many respects. We are not what we once were, and we shall not remain what we are now. There's power in those words. He was a powerful teacher. He was sent off on a mission, as a matter of fact, amongst the poor and ravaged. He received a monthly stipend as a missionary so that he could pay for apartment, clean clothes, wash, good food. When he got down there, he couldn't abide having more than everybody else. He wanted to live as the people he preached amongst. He gave away all the money the church gave him and lived in squalor amongst the people he was teaching. The church officials heard word about it, and they rushed down to assess the situation themselves. They saw Van Gogh living in squalor, and they said it was beneath the cloth. They said he needed to dress better. They said he needed to be of better appearance and of better cleanliness than those he was teaching. He needed to be better fed. And he disagreed with them and said, basically, what Christ said is that give everything away and come follow him. He was fired as a missionary, too. Van Gogh failed as a missionary. In 1880, the same year Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, a light went on in Van Gogh's head, and he painted in a way that nobody had seen before. At age 27, Van Gogh was about to turn the art world on its head. And nobody knew it yet. But we know it now. I'm going to get more into Van Gogh's life in the future. But thanks for learning this little bit with me now. On behalf of Shoot for Love, I'm Jake, and I'm happy to be here. Aren't you? We'll see you guys.